If you want to chime in what's happening to your favorite KFAN shows, you can make your voice heard on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. So let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard text message and data rate supply.
The analyst, Pete Bursich, in-booth analyst for the Vikings Radio Audio Media Network, he just stopped in the studio for that break between Anthony Barr and the scribe Ben Goessling at Ben Goessling via X. And this is courtesy of Standard Heating and Air, standardheating.com. I mean, like 4.5 minutes with Bursich, I just sat back and just watched you guys go with smash route this. What's another word for simplify that? Yep. George Pickens this, Jake Ferguson that. That was a lot in 4.5 minutes.
Yeah, it was a lively break in here. He asked about the state of my six-pack or lack thereof, so we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, it was a body weight check with you.
Yep.
You were leaning back, and he's like, "Oh, you put on a lot of weight." I'm like, "Yeah, your body fat's up to 7%.
Yeah.
Holy cow!"
And he even gave you a potential question you could ask the coach later this week.
Exactly.
If so inclined.
So, fly on the wall would have learned a lot here in the last 5 minutes.
Well, I mean, it's the analyst came in as I was refreshing the coffee, and he's like, "All right, when KO comes in, here's a question for you."
Right.
Now, if I see that on social media or somebody says it to me, I'm just going to back up for a second, just to make sure I can properly absorb it.
Yep.
It's kind of like, it's not like all my questions are the greatest in the world, but as you know, there's so much more that goes into formulating questions a certain way than really anybody would know. And nobody needs to know because, quite honestly, it's boring. But then when he wanted me to compare wide receiver and tight ends rooms, I walked out and I said, "I'm gonna let the scribe handle that one at the Wednesday presser with KO."
Maybe, and we may burn that one on flow today of trying to cover this group, and we can kind of get at it that way, maybe. But
that's right.
It's a deep group. I mean, it's a big challenge for them this week. So yes, the idea of comparing, it's good on good. There, the receivers don't face each other, obviously, but if you're comparing the two groups, they're both quite impressive.
But what's interesting, actually, with what he said is if you go Pickens, or let's go Lamb, Pickens, Cavante, Turpin.
Yep.
And then you go Jefferson, Addison, Naylor. Turpin, speed guy.
Right.
Naylor, speed guy. Yep. CeeDee Lamb and Jefferson, same draft. I'm not going to say mercurial, but nevertheless, 4 for 15 the last couple of games.
Yeah.
Jefferson wants more than that, but he's been cool. CeeDee Lamb's been through things. He's mostly been cool with things. And then you get the enigmatic portion of the equation, Pickens and Addison.
Yes.
It actually is analogous.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, and Pickens has had a great year, and Addison has had quite a few moments as well. But yes, with both of those guys, there's a little bit of stuff that you kind of have to be aware of.
What was the read on the Sunday shutout and Good Morning?
Good Morning. Yeah, it was, I spent a lot of time yesterday kind of looking back through what they did offensively. I mean, we talked a lot about this idea of, don't call it simplifying, streamlining the game plan for the quarterback as we went through it. And you did see a lot of that.
Before I have O'Connell in here in 45 minutes, I'm being serious here. Is not using that word a thing?
Well, yesterday he said
it's not in the
saying
bid.
Simplifying.
Okay,
yeah, because
I heard that.
And he's brought it up a couple times, but I think he thinks of simplifying as a pejorative of like this means this is more elementary. It's more
we dumbed it down for the kid versus another route.
I think what he's trying to say is let's go back to things that there's still complexity, but there's a little less diversity in it. I mean, Wes Phillips, I asked Wes Phillips about this last week, and he actually talked about it in quite a bit of detail.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I mean, it's fewer different formations, and some of this is for McCarthy, some of this is for everybody else, because his point was when you have all of these different formations and all of these different little nuances to it, there is a higher percentage chance that one of the other 10 is going to mess it up, especially when you've had offensive linemen that haven't played in the same spots. You've had people kind of shifting back and forth. Blake Brandel's played a couple different places.
It's Brandel. Hold on.
Blake Brandel.
Yeah, there was a Brandel in the pronunciations.
Yeah.
And then it got changed.
Okay.
And I missed it.
I didn't know this. I've covered the guy for 6 years. I've been saying his name wrong the whole time.
Right. Well, here's the genesis. We're in Seattle.
Okay.
It's 9:30 in the evening. I'm in the lobby, about ready to team hotel, about ready to shut it down.
Okay.
I think it was his wife, but either his wife or a member of his family very respectfully came up to me and said, radio show game calls. We listen a lot. You guys are always saying Brandel.
Yeah.
Blake's not going to approach you and say it's Brandel.
Okay.
But it's Brandel.
Good.
So it's Brandel.
Good to know.
So we're Brandel.
Perfect. I will file that away as a guy that gets Goessling all the time. In fact, being on this show, when people come up to me in public and say my name correctly without me having to change it, it's like, you guys must listen to KFAN. So thank you. But there's no chance that anybody ever gets Goessling right the first time. So,
but see, you just
I will file it away.
See,
Brandel.
You said, Brandel. You said that simplification, pejorative, streamlining.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, management with our radio station for decades, for 2.5 decades, KFAN is too pedestrian. It's KFAN.
Yeah, okay.
So you need to better streamline that KFAN.
Okay.
Well, even though 99.2% of the population says, nobody says, hey, PA, you work for KFAN. Yeah. No, they say you work for KFAN or the fan.
Yep.
So, anyway, just don't be pejorative.
Okay, got it. Yes, on the simplification or not, the streamlining of the offense, a lot of it I think was, just trying to make it so there are more formations, more concepts that, hey, we've run this a couple times and you get a few more reps at it. I compared it last week to, I think my editor said this is basically season 4 of The Bear, which I haven't watched, but you go from like a restaurant that's got all sorts of seasonal chef-driven dishes that change all the time to saying, hey, we're going to make a really good burger that everybody knows how to make really well. It's not going to be anything terribly fancy.
Exotic.
I mean, maybe, not exotic. It may have nice ingredients, but we're going to do this really well and people are going to come back for it because...
Reminds me of Lion's Tap.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've been there. Lion's Tap in Eden Prairie.
Absolutely.
You've been there, right, Norge?
Yes.
Yeah, Lion's Tap, like 4 or 5 things on the menu.
But they do them really well.
Never changes, and they're terrific.
And people don't mind. They keep coming back. That place is full all the time. So, I think it was a little bit of that approach of let's major in the things that we know we can do really well and worry about the rest of it later. Is there, and how do we know at all how they got to this point? And Bursich was talking, part of the issue with McCarthy's development has been the fact that he just hasn't been on the field enough, right? I mean, that's whether it was the ankle and then we got the concussion more recently, just the process of reps and rhythm to his own schedule. Yeah. Does that play into where in some respects almost a delay of this moment of coming to terms with the idea of this streamlining / simplification where
no, not slash.
You get to a point in the season where it's like, all right, everything that we've been trying, him in and out as he is, it just hasn't worked. Yeah. Now let's do this. Yeah, I think there's that. I think it's learning how a guy approaches things. I think there's always an art to this. And I remember talking with Kevin O'Connell quite a bit about this with Kirk Cousins, where it's you learn about how a guy receives information, how he receives a certain message, and then you say, okay, if this is how he hears me, that means I have to approach him this way. If he hears me say, hey, I really want you to do this, and then he kind of does it to the nth degree and almost kind of overdoes it, it's like, well, we have to message that differently to that player so he receives it in a way that is more productive. I think when you're talking about a 22-year-old quarterback who's coming in and you didn't have last year to see him on the field, you didn't have last year to say, let's make corrections, let's go through game planning in the way that you would do it as a starting quarterback, there's going to be a learning curve for the coaches as well of how do we manage this guy, how do we coach him, how do we help him be at his best. And I think that's taken time, especially as he's had those injuries that you mentioned, where you're not going through it week to week, you're not getting the level of repetitiveness and the level of consistency to say, okay, we tried this 2 weeks ago, this didn't work, and now we can kind of learn from it and go. I think that's taken a while, and the fact that he admitted last week too, he overthinks. He thinks about a lot of these things a lot, and then probably takes a little too much onto the field with him sometimes. So I think they were learning that about him and saying, all right, this, at least for this point in his development, is what it's going to take.
Well, with Kevin, and I don't think I'm throwing caution to the wind here. For me, the A topic with McCarthy, and I certainly can be wrong, is all right. The release time, or he didn't hold the ball as long.
This is fastest of the year.
Stepped up in the pocket, specifically on the Addison to the left side for 21 when the pocket banned out. I mean, okay.
Jefferson points at him and claps right away.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, at Jefferson early in the game, when it was on I think the first third down on that 19 and 98.
Yep.
McCarthy runs up the middle, dives, and Jefferson was pointing at him there. And so he clearly was empowering him during the game. That's cool.
Yep.
So there are tangible things in baby step-like fashion that we're taking this weekend.
Yeah.
For me, it was McCarthy's calm. And being on the sideline 2 hours, 2:15 before the game to do Vikings football Sunday and see him come out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying he was different. He was a markedly different, could just in more calculated fashion. There was intent. He was more calm.
Yeah.
And he was more calm during the game. And he was more calm after the game. Now, the part I won't bring up with Kevin is I believe JJ deeply regrets that alter ego thing. That I just think that because he's 22 years old, man. He's on social media more than all of us combined, even if they say they're not.
Right.
Well, it's going to bite you for a little while. The good thing for him is that in this day and age, it'll go away quickly because of attention spans that are of 2025.
Yep.
But I think he wants to start laying the groundwork because when Norder brought it up to me, right after the Lions game, I'm like, the 9-bit sucks. Okay. I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's not who I know this kid is. And that's what happened. And it sucks. And I don't think great things are going to come out of it. Well, so you can just tell with intent, he's establishing who he truly is, win or loss.
Yeah.
I think that's the A topic.
Yeah. I think you need to have a quarterback do that, especially in a situation where you are the youngest starter in the NFL playing with one of the more veteran teams in the NFL. I think just saying, I'm going to show up and do my job at a high enough level that we can win games, that's the best way to kind of lay a foundation, because all of the other stuff, that can come later if you want it to. I don't know that it even needs to, but I think the easiest way to get people around you to say, okay, we can ride with this kid, is to show up every week and the results on Sundays are consistent enough to say, yes, we can, everybody can relax a little bit because we see enough of a body of work to suggest that we can trust it and see he's going to develop.
And his teammates, and we'll never hear this, and I'm not going to ask about things like this, but like, say Jamar Chase or somebody's texting with Justin Jefferson, dog, 4 for 15 over the last 2. What's up with 9? And by the way, what's up with your guy having played X amount of games, and now all of a sudden he gets to do this alter ego thing? So, like, they talk about more things, and if it compounds with teammates and they start to get frustrated, that just takes things and makes it worse.
The way you were talking, that you hit on something that was kind of my thought out of Sunday's game, is that Kevin O'Connell is learning through this experience too. So whether it was Kirk Cousins in 2022, Darnold last year, the common theme there is Kevin O'Connell's like a professor teaching a 400 class.
Yeah.
And he didn't necessarily, and he talked about, we're challenging JJ. We are putting a ton on his plate to watch him handle it or how he handles it.
Right.
And so, but the kid couldn't handle the 400 class. And so over the course of this year, the head coach, and it's frustrating for many of us as fans, it's like it's a 5-win team. I'm sure it's even more frustrating inside that locker room.
Yeah.
But the coach being able to learn and evolve through this process just as much as we would expect that the kid does. That's just fascinating, that environment and that experience that they're all going through right now.
No doubt. It is one of those things that I've heard a lot of people say, well, why did it take them this long to get to this point? I think some of it is you haven't had those repetitive weeks of, okay, he did this 4 weeks ago, because it's just been these fits and starts with how much he's playing because of the injuries. But there's also, I think, an element for the coach of, and you hear a lot of play callers, whether it's Kevin O'Connell, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, talk about how the plays have answers in them, that there's a belief in the offensive structure here and in this general tree of offenses that if you run things the way they're supposed to be run, the plays are well enough designed that you will have opportunities to make plays, even if defenses are throwing things at you. It's not as complex as you would think, because you're not being asked to read coverages on the fly. It's throw to open grass, find all these places to go, and you can make this accessible to young quarterbacks. I think on a classroom level, McCarthy has handled all of this extremely well. I think there's also the component where you go on the field And it's not a classroom in the sense that where you take the test in the classroom, you take the test on the field.
Yeah.
And that's where I think things like just being a little too fired up sometimes may come into play.
Yeah,
the overthinking, I need to keep myself at kind of a base level of emotion, of energy, of adrenaline, all that kind of stuff plays into it. So even if in a classroom he's saying, yeah, I got this. If this happens, I go here. The biomechanics of I need to throw a ball accurately and on time, that is another component of this. And I think you're just seeing if there are things we know, because we've seen it enough now, that he throws corner routes really well, or things off of certain concepts really well. We can go back to that and say, let's just live in this world for now and kind of come back to all this other stuff later.
And does this then he's got to go out. The next step for McCarthy, of course, is to do what he did on Sunday.
Yeah.
Right? And play with that calm, play with that poise.
Yep.
And would this be kind of the simplification? The streamlining? That would be kind of what we should expect over the Final Four. More of the same, most likely, to create.
Yeah.
We need to create a higher floor for the kid to understand exactly into 2026. This impacts decision making on multiple levels in terms of what you expect from 9 next season. And so creating that higher floor, part of that ATOP.
I think so. I think you saw it on Sunday. They ran the ball on a higher percentage of plays. Now, some of this, of course, is they had to lead the entire game. Yeah. But they ran more than they ever have under Kevin O'Connell in terms of percentage of the time. It was like 55%. It's only like the 8th or 9th time in 64 games that they've been over 50. So it was runs, it was heavy personnel, it was concepts that he has shown he likes, it was things that got the ball out of his hand relatively quickly. I would imagine that that's kind of the base of your menu, and they'll probably add a little bit as they feel comfortable with it. But yes, I would imagine the focus now is let's get the floor, let's get a repeatable standard of this, and then you go from there.
The scribe, Ben Goessling, sharing football information in second to none fashion. And we thank Standard Heating and Air, standardheating.com, for the yearly sponsorship. At Ben Goessling via Twitter, if you would like to follow him. And when we return, a defensive-related conversation will emerge involving Brian Flores and his work that he's done this year. You're listening to 9 to Noon at FM 100.3 KFAN.
The Friday football feasts head west to Buffalo Wild Wings Plymouth this week. You can join PA, Nordo, Alec Lewis this Friday to get you ready for Sunday night showdown with the Cowboys, plus great food, your shot at prizes all morning long. Doors open at 8 a.m. Get details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Hey, with Kevin O'Connell, we do a Talkback Weekly, free iHeart audio app. And you have 30 seconds to opine. We play them back for the head coach every week, unless we're at Shields for Toys for Tots. Then we have 3 Tots ask him questions. But fire away with some talkbacks. And maybe a defensive bent this week would be really cool. In that, I'm gonna frame it up now for the scribe, Ben Goessling. Brian Flores' work this year has been it's just been mostly terrific. If you think about all the circumstances and the time of possession and things like that, and Eric Wilson, somebody, I had Anthony Barr on the radio show about 45 minutes ago, and he played with Eric Wilson, Eric's first 4 years. Yeah. And here's Eric with 15 tackles for loss, leading the team in TFLs, playing himself into, crazily, the biggest deal of his career is going to come at this stage of his career. Yeah. So Eric Wilson could be a talker, or anything defensive related. You got any ideas, Nordo?
Well, and talkbacks are so easy. Hit that microphone. PA mentioned the 30-second limit, but it's like, hey, this is Eric and Chaska. How important was the complementary aspect of the team on Sunday, getting those turnovers on the defense? Or, Hitman in his 38th career interception. Feels like he's almost as old as you are, Coach, and he's still making plays out there.
That's actually kind of almost true.
Exactly. So to that end, just kind of, again, hey, this is Coach, your name and where you're from, and maybe just something that you saw in the game that you really appreciate and want some insight on from the coach into Sunday night. A little defensive bent. I like the way PA was taking that.
And go ahead.
Harrison Smith, I think, will be the last player. In all likelihood, Harrison Smith will be the last player Kevin O'Connell coaches who was born in the same decade as him.
Wow,
and
same decade.
Yes, in the 80s. And I say that as somebody who was also born in said decade.
Right.
So,
well, like I said to Ben Goessling at Ben Goessling via X, follow if you're so inclined. We have Access Vikings, the podcast. Andrew, Emily, and Ben do after games and during the week. We got a newsletter doing a really good job over there. Star Tribune, StarTribune.com. Flores worked this year. You know, I was chatting with somebody last week after the Seahawks game, and they were trying to get after somebody. They were trying to get after players for missed tackles in the fourth quarter. And I'm like, I understand that. They're not preferred, but holy cow. I mean, when every single game is 2/3 lopsided with the time of possession, people get tired.
Yeah.
And sure, hey, better is required. Okay, better's probably required with you too in these areas, but you're tired, metaphorically speaking.
Right.
I think Flores worked this year. Not having Van Ginkel, not having Cashman, X amount of games. I think it's masterful.
Yeah, they have not. I mean, if you compare last year to this year, I mean, the numbers certainly were better last year, but they were also playing in situations where it's a lot more favorable. And you see it on Sunday. It is a lot easier to play, especially on the defensive side of the ball, especially as a pass rusher, when you are playing with a lead. Mm-hmm. And they have done that almost none this year. I mean, they had a lead, I think, in the Bengals game. Yeah. And then it was the Lions game. And then Sunday, I mean, absent a couple, hey, it's 3-0 kind of things early in the game, they have played from behind or with the score even for most of the year. So having opportunities to do what they did on Sunday and pin their ears back have not been there. It's been a lot of, hey, we've been on the field. Now there was a turnover and we got to go out and get another stop. Like a defense that's had its back against the wall quite a bit or has been asked to do a lot, has been required to do more, to put a different spin on that phrase. They have done quite a bit this year to say, we're going to keep this team in games because of the way we can get stops and play. Mm-hmm. And that's with, I think, that's injuries, I think, in the core with Van Ginkel and certainly Grenard's had a couple things here. It's been, some things in the secondary. Jeff Okudah's been hurt, and some of the corners probably haven't played quite to the level that they want. But they have, with the hand they've been dealt, I think done quite a bit of exemplary work.
I think Fabian Moreau has played better than Jeff Okudah.
I would agree.
Played at any step. And I mean, we can play this hash mark game. There's no indictment on Okudah, but it's like, he had a rough year with Houston last year. Yeah. So then you start asking some of the background questions about, when he's at his best, like what's happening.
Yeah.
Short side of the field, where you limit the big side of the field, where it has to do a lot of running and stuff. Yep. Super physical. We remember him knocking Jefferson off his spot with the Lions a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that didn't really develop. Fabian Moreau, the former member of the Washington team, I think he had 6 of his 7 interceptions in his 4 years with Washington.
Yeah.
Fabian Moreau, we're not trying to make him sound like Darryl Green reincarnate, but he stepped into a spot. I can't remember him being on the wrong side of something just terrible where it repeatedly happens.
No.
So Fabian Moreau, in sneaky fashion, has done good work.
Yeah, he has. I mean, they've needed somebody to step in there because the corner depth was a question at the beginning of the season. And then when Okudah goes down, it's okay, we need somebody to come in here. And Moreau had been here on the practice squad last year, didn't really have this big of a role. But yeah, whether it's him or we mentioned Eric Wilson, I mean, Eric Wilson has been terrific. So, yes, the way that they have gotten meaningful contributions out of players that not a lot of people would have thought were going to be big contributors on a defense with a lot of high-end players, it has mattered, and they've needed it. And, yeah, that's been an impressive work by this coaching staff to get that kind of contribution. And for those players for buying into it, too. I think that's certainly been a bright spot for this defense.
With Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, just paint with a broad brush. Through, what are we looking at now, 13? Mm-hmm. Through 13 of them, what have you thought of their seasons?
Well, I mean, Hargrave makes the play on Sunday. I think that was the type of play, the type of impact I thought he would have more. During training camp, I thought, boy, this guy he's violent, he's explosive. You're going to see the impact he makes a lot on this team, and that hasn't really played out quite to that degree. So, I mean, Jalen Redmond is another guy that stepped into a bigger role and I think has changed the calculus a little bit of how they use those guys. But given what they spent on Allen and Hargrave, and given the cap space that they allocated to those two players, I think they would have expected a little bit more, and I'm wondering where that will go, because they have cap questions, and those two players, especially Hargrave, are going to be, I think, decisions for them in the offseason.
Lastly, and Nordo brought this up to me before the show, and it triggered me to write it down for you. Do you see greatness with anybody in the NFL? I mean, you got the Eagles losing to Dicker the kicker last night, and Philadelphia personifies as much as I've ever seen a team, more so than Kansas City, because I think there's a side of enigma to Philadelphia that was not there with Kansas City.
Yeah.
We're going to push, don't let us in. We're going to push this button, and when everybody tries 10 of 10, nobody can beat us.
Right.
Maybe they'll be right. Saquon's been in and out. Emphasis on out a majority of the season, and I say performance-wise. So you got that with Philly. Green Bay, they all have their limitations. Yeah. Do you see greatness anywhere?
I mean, the team that I would look at in the NFC is the Rams, probably, because Matthew Stafford's done it. I mean, if he's healthy, obviously that's always a question with him, and he's been healthy to this point. But the way they renovated that defense after, they had the run, obviously, where they win the Super Bowl with O'Connell as the OC there, and Les Snead had traded all the picks, and they had to reset that whole roster. Mm-hmm. They've done it on defense. I mean, whether it's Jared Verse, Kobe Turner, I mean, they have a lot of pieces that will affect things, as the Vikings saw in the playoffs last year. Between them and Stafford throwing to Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, that's a team that's got a lot of weapons. That would be the team I'd look at in the NFC. I don't know that there's like
a dominator.
Yeah, I don't know that it's like a lock solid contender, but that would be the team I'd look at the top of the conference. I don't think it's quite as determined as it's been in the past. And then the AFC certainly is much more wide open than it's been.
Well, we'll leave you with this, because it's not a great chance, but it's not an awful chance that this could happen. Seahawks are 10-3. Rams are 10-3. Rams beat them. Darnold in the most pressure-filled game he's had as a member of the Seahawks through 4 picks. Then a next kind of pressure-filled game, because he's going against his former team, he takes 4 sacks, 38% of the amount he had into the game. Yeah. So, and then we got week 18 last year. I think that you understand where I'm going here. There is a chance that Darnold in Seattle will be playing week 18 at San Francisco for the 1 seed.
Yeah.
There's a chance. Yeah. I mean, that would be, as a scribe, well, that's elite drama.
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of angles in the NFC West, a little bit like the NFC North last year, where there's just it's a lot of teams competing for things. But yes, whether Darnold's had the games he's had against the Rams, which is getting to be a number of them now, and then playing his former team, San Francisco, which was kind of the place that the Vikings looked at and said, okay, he's been in a similar offense. They coached him better than he'd had. Yeah, he owes probably some things to the 49ers as well. So, yeah, there are a lot of good storylines in a couple of divisions, because the NFC West, NFC North are all quite heated competitions at the moment.
The West is going to have 3 double-digit win teams likely. I mean, you talk about the Rams
North
and the Seahawks, but the Niners. The Niners are hosting the Titans. They're at the Colts, potentially sacking Phillip Rivers, of all people. Right. And then they host the Bears before that Seahawks game. I mean, they're looking potentially at being a 12-win team into that mix. Wow. The AFC West is just stacked in an otherwise super muddy conference.
My man, you're the very best. Great seeing you today, and have a wonderful day, okay?
You too.
Ben Goessling, Standard Heating and Air, standardheating.com. Thank you very much. News due north around the corner. Then KO, Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, for X's and O's 15 minutes from now.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. It is time for News du Nord, which is brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Check out that tree lot, Christmas trees for sale at Canterbury Park. That's super cool. And while you're there, why don't you feel the felt like you can do all day, every day, all year? Poker, blackjack, and table games. You're having sips at Chips and Tippin' Derek Allen. And live racing, of course, on hiatus until the spring. And well, you heard that weather report. Apparently the storm's coming, and it's apocalyptically bad, and we're all going to be snowed in forever. Who knows? But CanterburyPark.com, best place in Shakopee. check out CanterburyPark.com. To the Minnesota Timberwolves, at some point you're going to be able to podcast PA's chat with Coach Chris Finch during the first hour, open the show with him. Wolves lose 108-105 last night. And it's just the inconsistency of this team, albeit 15-9. At one point, we're talking they lose to all the teams over 500, kind of like they did last night. Beat all the bad teams. Cool. Dig all that. But Anthony Edwards, when he has himself, by his standards, a pedestrian evening, that's when you see, oh, wow, look at Naz Reid. Wow, look at Jaden McDaniels in that offense, and he's having career averages per 36, et cetera. All of those things, great. But then when Anthony has a night like last night, where he probably could have gone for 60, then you get Jaden McDaniels, 1 of 7, Dante DiVincenzo, 1 of 7, Mike Conley, 0 of 5 from the floor last night, and Naz Reid, 2 of 12. Somewhere in that neighborhood, I'm just going to add that math up on the fly. It's like 4 for 31 combined, something like that. That is just absolutely hideous and really inexplicable for this team. I know they're lacking the point guard. You saw Bones Highland kind of getting Dillingham's minutes last night, which is just continuing to be concerning. Kind of starting to feel like maybe Dillingham's not going to be a thing in the long term. And Mike Conley's just, frankly, I mean, you get 15 minutes out of him last night, and that's probably 3 or 4 too many. He's just showing his age at this stage of his career. So frustrating loss, a Booker-less bunch in the Suns. You got to win those games. And that just kind of goes down to, again, muddy Western Conference. We're all staring up at OKC. But you got to have those W's, wins like last night in a game at Target Center. And I believe the Dubs are up next for the T-Wolves. The Dubs, I believe, on the 12th. Is that a Friday affair? Yeah, that's a Friday out in the Bay.
Yeah, Steph's not playing right now. Probably will come back soon.
Minnesota Wild won 4-1 last night over the Kraken, and it was Joel Eriksson Ek with a goal and 2 assists kind of leading the way. Kaprizov with an empty netter, and then later, just to kind of put the bow on it, Tarasenko. Hey, there was a Vlad Tarasenko empty net goal in the mix. I think his 3rd total tally since joining the Minnesota Wild. But they needed that, kind of stemming the tide, losing 3 of 4. At one point, we're looking at that Western Canada swing as like, oh, this is a terrific opportunity to rally up the points. Well, they struggled. And so now, coming home, they've been playing better against our division rivals.
Right.
It's Dallas on Thursday. So let's get to it home. It was Gus Bus, I believe, 23 saves and the 1 goal allowed in net. Maybe it's Jesper on Thursday. We shall see. But it sounds like we're going to have the head coach, I believe, at some point tomorrow 9 to noon, and he can give us more intel on that as well.
And with the let's just say, I mean, from a division standpoint, yes, but like the totality of the Western side of the equation, the victory they had earlier this season over Vegas, I believe it was in overtime. So you got Vegas, you snapped that stupid long losing streak against Winnipeg. You did the day after Thanksgiving to Colorado. Now they were on a 10-game bender. You beat them in overtime, and Volstead shuts down Makar and McKinnon to win the game in the shootout. And Dallas is next. You know, where you're just thinking about these teams that beat you. Some dramatically more than you beat them.
Yeah.
Dallas is next in the lineup. Dallas is next. So tomorrow night's going to be, or make that Thursday night's going to be cool.
Well, and part of what makes it cool on Sunday night is what happened with the Eagles last night. And, you know, we've talked about it. Push button. We've chatted with Mr. Goessling about it. But in the end, that L for the Eagles last night only further propels and motivates this bunch with Schottenheimer and Eberflus and everybody, knowing they're just a game and a half back.
Yep.
Their route to the playoffs, as we were talking last segment, with so many double-digit win teams, specifically out of the NFC West, they need to win the East to get into the playoffs, and an opportunity for Dallas and Jerry's World, Sunday Night Lights, and they like to show up in prime time. Jerry just wouldn't have it any other way than a standalone game with his team and a chance to go to 7-6-1
Okay, Sauce.
I just wanted the flex.
Yeah.
I wanted the flex.
Yeah,
It's
that's all right.
It's super selfish that I wanted the flex because then
Everybody did.
Fan line's going to end at like 12:30 at night versus just a neat, tidy 3 p.m. game, and everyone goes home happy and gets a little sleep. But the motivating factor for the Cowboys is that the East is very much in reach after, and I think there was a missed kick last night, the 4 picks by Jalen Hurts, and they lose at the Chargers out west in overtime, 22-19.
Take it a step farther with Dallas, with the Philly loss. But all of the social media related terrorism George Pickens faced.
Yeah.
You think he's going to be ready to go Sunday night?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nationally televised game. We shall see.
Well, I wonder as we put a wrap on News to Nord here momentarily, just kind of the idea. When social media funnels you into clips, when they funnel you into viral videos versus actually watching every single route and every single moment of that game, the negativity that can be pulled out of it, again, funneled into those clips, can maybe present a bad perception of, George Pickens, whatever. By all accounts, I don't think he's a problem off the field. When he's on the field and he's engaged, he's incredibly good. Is the question when he's engaged, is that even as much of a question as we're making it out to be here? Who knows? But that wraps up News to Nord, again, brought to you by Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Canterbury down in Shakopee. You're feeling the felt all year. You're buying Christmas trees. You're shaking down Johnny the Mouse Mickelson for a bobber hat, and you're calling it a day. CanterburyPark.com. When we return, the 11 o'clock hour kicks off with the head coach. Kevin O'Connell will be here as part of the weekly X's and O's conversation. It's all part of 9 to noon right here on The Fan.